Hey, this is Stokley.
And I'm Marybeth Louise Hutchinson from Atlanta, and welcome to Herrington High. Haha, we're just kidding. This is the Morgue. Welcome back to it. And I want to go ahead and introduce my special guest today. It is my beautiful sister.
Hey.
Her name is Monika. She was nice enough to come on the show with me today while Hannah is unable to. And yeah, I'm so excited to have you on the show. How are you feeling?
I'm very anxious, nervous, but really excited. I don't like being recorded, so.
Yeah, we were having a whole giggle session right before this.
Yeah, I had to get it together.
My mom is also in the room right now. So if you hear us laughing, it's because she's over there doing goofy shit. Like right now, she's smacking it like Akon. Smack that all on the floor. But before we begin today, I want to remind everyone about our subscriptions. They're going to be coming around the first week of November or so. And on those subscriptions, we're going to be covering all different types of movies that are not just horror. We're also going to be doing some true crime. And then there might just be a few other things sprinkled into there with some fun little guests and everything. So you're going to want to subscribe to that. And also, before we begin, I forgot to mention in the Scream 3 episode, I told these people in this group that I would mention them, and I completely forgot to. Guys, on Facebook, there is a group on there called the Roman Bridger Ghost Face Fan Group.
Yes.
Y'all, go join that group. I invited Monika to it, yesterday?
Yeah, and I joined, and I immediately saw so many posts that were so funny, and I started sending screenshots to Mallory, and yeah, I love that group.
It's a great time over in that group, so you guys go join it.
He's my favorite Ghostface, by the way.
He's the best Ghostface.
He was the most creative.
And like I've always said, he did it all by himself.
He played dead in a freezer.
Yes, stopped his own heart because you saw Gail, she checked his
pulse.
She checked it. He was dead. Hey, what other ghost? Well, let me not spoil it, but what other Ghostface do you know of who would do that?
Shh, I haven't seen Scream 5 or 6, so don't tell me. No, don't spoil it.
I'm not spoiling shit. All right, so The Faculty was a 1998 sci-fi horror movie written by David Wechter, Bruce Kimmel, and Kevin Williamson, and directed by Robert Rodriguez.
I love me some Robert Rodriguez.
Love Robert Rodriguez. Spy Kids, bro. Love some Spy Kids.
Love it.
He did From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yes.
George Clooney in that movie.
Halfway Naked Girls.
Halfway Naked Girls.
Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong with that. Back in 1990, David Wechter and Bruce Kimmel wrote the first draft for the script, and they sent it out, but there were no buyers. It wasn't until the success of Scream that Miramax actually bought the script and rushed it into production. And the nasty-ass Weinstein brothers brought in Kevin Williamson to do rewrites, and they wanted him to keep the basic backstory while also rewriting the dialogue and adding in new characters to make it more hip. That's what the article said. They wanted to make it more hip. What the hell?
Okay.
And at first, Williamson was going to direct The Faculty, but then he chose to direct Teaching Miss Tingle instead. So the Weinsteins brought in Robert Rodriguez to direct. And I would like to mention that Marco Beltrami also composed the score for The Faculty, and he is well known for scoring the Scream franchise as well. So with that being said, if you watch this movie and you feel like it feels a little familiar to you because of the music, it's because of Marco Beltrami. Iconic. There's even some parts in here where, I mentioned in my notes where I'm like, that noise was used in Scream. And it's weird.
I haven't noticed it, but
I'm going to tell you one and you're going to be like, wait, what?
So The Faculty stars Jordana Brewster as Delilah, Clea Duvall as Stokley, my girl, Laura Harris as Marybeth from Atlanta, Josh Hartnett, Zeke, Yum, Sean Hat-O-C as Stan, Elijah Wood as Casey, Robert Patrick as Coach Willis.
Motherfucking T-1000 in this bitch.
Terminator 2. Okay. Famke Janssen as Miss Burke, and USHERRAYMOND as Gabe. That's Usher Raymond, baby. And then John Stewart as Professor Furlong.
And fun fact, Professor Furlong was actually named after Edward Furlong from the Terminator franchise.
Really?
Yes, surprisingly. And I'm pretty sure, so Casey's last name is actually Connor as well. And I think that they may have taken that from Sarah Connor and John Connor from the Terminator.
Then Coach Willis was in Terminator 2.
Yup. They were like, we're going to call it back, y'all.
He's scary. Why do you always play scary?
Always.
Scary characters.
No matter what movie it is, he always plays a scary, mean character. I do not recall seeing this man in a nice character ever.
It's something with his face.
He has a scary face.
And he's like really jacked, like pumped. Like he looks like he goes to the gym like every single day.
He goes to the gym every day for like 8 hours for sure.
Really?
For sure.
Scary.
And so the faculty opened up on Christmas Day of 1998 on a budget of $15 million. And the opening box office was only $11.6 million, but the gross worldwide was $40.2 million. It had a runtime of 1 hour and 44 minutes, or 104 minutes if you're a weirdo out there.
And then it had an IMDb rate of 6.6 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes rated it as 56% on the tomato meter and 57% audience score. And then Letterboxd rated it at 3.3 out of 5.
And so the movie opens up with The Kids Aren't All Right by The Offspring playing, which is one of my favorite songs ever. We're out on a football field and a coach is berating the team, dropping F-bombs and everything. And we get a close-up of one of the main dudes in the movie. And as the team walks away, the coach runs off in a fit of rage and knocks over a bench holding water coolers. And I always thought that shit was funny.
He was
just
raging.
seemed mad.
Like,
I don't understand why this man was so mad. Like, later on, he says that there's only one team that can, like, whoop their asses. So they're doing just fine. Why is he so upset?
he has anger issues.
Homeboy has some bad anger issues. And I even have in here, he clearly has some pent up rage and should not be teaching. He kicks some stuff around and then a sprinkler starts going off and he kicks that instead and bends over to like put his hand on it for some reason.
I don't understand that at all.
Was he trying to make the water stop going? Because clearly it was just like a broken sprinkler. Kicking it.
And it was just flooding the field. Like, I don't understand him putting his hand over it, but okay.
But okay, sir. Then someone ends up walking up and he doesn't seem too concerned with that person. He's like, yeah, what? And we never see who that person is. We switch over to a faculty lounge in the school and some admin and teachers are having a discussion on where the budget money should go. And of course, it's always going to go to the football team. I hate that so much. Because our school, all of the money went to the football team. And that it used to piss me off. And so we learned that this takes place in Ohio, the worst state ever. Sorry, Ohio. And one of the teacher actually smokes in the school. And I used to find that really funny because that was never allowed in our schools.
Right. You would never see that, just a teacher going to the faculty lounge and lighting up a cigarette. Like, yep. I didn't even, when I was a kid, I thought teachers didn't even smoke.
Literally. And then I saw this movie and I was like, wait, what? This has to be literally just a movie. So as they're leaving, Miss Drake, the principal, realizes that she forgot her keys. So she goes back inside of her office. And as she retrieves her keys, she hears something and it startles her. And she like turns around and it looks like someone came in after her. And the coach ends up popping up and he's acting weird. And he's like, you look very, very pretty today. And then he asks for a pencil. And she's not amused. And she's like, you're drunk. Which, does he just show up to the school drunk every once in a while?
Right. Because I questioned that. Or has he made a pass on her before?
Literally, is he just a creep?
Because it seems like something has went on in the past. But okay.
And she gives up and gives him a pencil and says, you and your pencil go home. It's late. And she's not wanting any of this bullshit. And then he starts to like back over. He He starts back over with the compliment of, "You look very, very pretty tonight." Excuse me, just let the woman go home. She gave you the pencil, so let her go, okay? She reminds him that harassment has a very fine line, and he retorts with stabbing her in the hand with a pencil. Oh, every time I see that, it makes my hand hurt.
Yeah, it makes my hand ache. Very
But
sensitive.
also, how sharp are those pencils? How did that pencil make its way all the way through her hand and it was still sharp whenever it came out?
All I can think is lead disease.
God, lead
Like,
poisoning.
lead poisoning. Oh, God.
And he yanks it out and she hits him in the face with her keys and she's able to run off, but now all of the doors are locked. And of course, she dropped her keys like whenever she smacked him in the face. They get into a slight tussle, but she throws him into a shelf and she runs off again. And luckily, Miss Olsen is there, but unluckily, she doesn't have her keys. Miss Drake takes the leap of faith to go get her keys from the office and successfully does. And she's able to escape just in time. But now Mrs. Olsen is acting weird. She stabs Miss Drake 6 times with some fabric shears. And I only assume that those are fabric shears because she is the theater teacher. And those, like, theater teachers are very serious about their fabric shears.
True.
I know you remember. Do not use my fabric shears with paper. Like,
Yeah.
that just ingrained into my brain. And so now we get a title card.
What's the lady's name that stabbed her with the fabric shears?
Mrs. Olsen.
Mrs. Olsen she makes me think that she's like made out of plastic for some reason. I don't know if it's something with her face and her hair, and it's like totally perfect after she got the parasite. So she just, every time I see her and she's like staring at them while they die, she reminds me like she's made out of plastic or something. Okay.
So are you talking about like in that moment and after?
Yes, that moment, and when she's
But what about before? Before, did you think she was made of plastic, or was it just after she stabbed?
No, because she looked like a young, just an old lady that was tired of working, like she was ready for retirement before, and then now that she has a parasite, she looks like she's made out of plastic, like
because she got the parasite.
It's the damn scarf that she wears around her neck too. I don't know.
Also, you have to think about this. So anyone, basically, for the most part, or all the women, I should say, that get the parasite, they always come out on the other side, like looking better. Like think about Miss Burke, for example. Spoiler alert.
Right.
Miss Burke, for example, she goes from being a fucking wallflower to being like a bad bitch within 2 seconds. And so the parasite makes you be like the best version of yourself, I guess. I don't know.
So Miss Olsen basically went from old and dusty to plastic and on point.
Yes, plastique.
Period.
Poo.
All right, let's move on.
And so now we get the title card.
The faculty.
And it's all like 90s and shit.
Yes.
I remember like...
This is when the song starts.
Yes.
We don't need
No. There's a different song. No, that's later on. We don't need... No, that's later on. But now we're at Herrington High School, home of the Hornets. And some rock music starts playing. I did not find the name of that song, but it's not that. And someone's pulling up, and they're speeding up in a black 1970 Pontiac GTO. I did Google that. He was skirting up in that bitch. And it's Josh Hartnett and his terrible haircut.
That's the first thing that I noticed. What is up with his haircut? What's up with the back? It looks like he just grabbed some scissors and went at it without a mirror, and it sticks out on both sides. So
here's the thing. So he did actually do that. He literally took some scissors to his head. So story goes, he was first cast in Halloween H2O. And whenever he was casted in Halloween H2O, he was like, I don't want to be known for being hot. I want to be known for my talent. So he literally just chopped his fucking hair. And between takes, he would like wear a beanie to make sure that he had like hat hair all the time. So he was like, I want to be known for my talent and my acting, not for being hot. Even though whenever I was younger, that was hot.
Right. Even with the terrible haircut.
Terrible haircut and all. Like, I was just like, let me jump up on you, Zeke. Like,
right.
For real.
You a cutie, all skinny and
Cutie
lanky
patootie.
like that. Ooh.
So on the road, 2 cars get into a very minor accident, and one of the drivers starts yelling and getting buck wild out there. And this guy gets off the school bus, he's eyeballing someone, and ends up getting an elbow to the face. And we get the cute little name cards that they give us, and it tells us that this is Casey, our main guy. And a goth chick walks up, and we get her name card, Stokley.
Yes, my girl.
And then back on the road, the driver who was yelling pulls the other driver out of the car to whoop her ass. And I always thought that was the funniest shit ever.
That's one of the best parts of the movie.
One of the best parts. There's a handful, like, this movie overall is really good.
She tried to pull the other girl through the window,
but yes,
of a door with the door open still.
The fact that door was open and she tried to still pull her through the window, that's some funny shit. Like, Robert Rodriguez, thank you for that, because I have a feeling that he was like, we need to put that in there.
It's the little details.
The little details that matter. And so Stokley is watching the fight and ends up bumping into a jock dude, and they exchange a few rude words, and the jock guy walks up to this really pretty girl, and we get her name card, Delilah. So in this moment, whenever I wrote these notes, I had not seen this movie in probably about 10 years. And I'm going to say this. I liked Delilah growing up, okay?
I did not.
And it's because you were older than me and you understood what the hell was going on. I should not have complimented her. She is not pretty. She's a bitch. And yeah, she's just a bitch, okay? So I take away me calling her pretty, okay? She's a disgusting human being.
I think she's still pretty, though.
No,
okay.
She doesn't deserve that pretty. And we learn that the jock's name is Stan because he tries to kiss Delilah, and she's like, these are Estee Lauder lips, and they take 72 minutes to apply. I'm sorry, what? Okay. Stan wants to talk to her, but she has more important business to attend to, and when she leaves, we get Stan's little name card, and the camera then pans over to Casey getting his balls rammed into the flagpole for some reason.
When I saw that again, I remember seeing it when I was a kid and watching this, but when I recently just watched it, I died when I saw that. Like, and that's horrible.
It's
like,
awful.
Why would, and how many people were carrying him? Like 4?
It was like 4 people, yeah.
And they like rammed, it had his legs
balls.
open, wide
Yes.
open, and rammed it into the flagpole. I couldn't even imagine how much pain he's in.
Oh. And then there's this pale blonde girl. She watched it happen, and she proceeds to walk up to like this emo looking chick that has a nose ring that's connected to her earring, and she compliments her on it. And the girl just like sits there silent, smoking her cigarette. And the blonde girl rattles about how it's her first day and she needs help finding the office, and how her name is Marybeth Louise Hutchinson from Atlanta. Okay, girl, we don't need your full name, date of birth, social security number, like chill, okay? And as she walks off, we get her little name card. And the guy with the bad haircut goes into the bathroom with 2 douche canoes. And as they walk in, there's a couple in the hallway. And they're just in a screaming argument. And they're literally committing domestic violence in the school. And that shit is also so funny. I know it's not funny for people to like hit each other and argue. That's a toxic ass relationship.
Toxico.
But that shit's funny.
Extremely.
Me being my high school self, if I saw that in the hallways, I'd be like, look at them. They're arguing and hitting each other and fighting.
I would record it.
World star.
Right.
And so in the bathroom, bad haircut boy is giving the douche canoes fake IDs and some droogs that come in a big pen, like outer shell thing. And he calls it scat, and it's
guaranteed to jack you up.
And we get his little name card, Zeke. And so now we have met like our core characters. And so the bell rings, and in the faculty lounge, a teacher, his name is Professor Furlong, he's talking to a woman, and she is Nurse Harper. And they're discussing her ongoing illness. And another teacher, Ms. Burke, asks the elderly teacher in there, Miss Bremmel, how she's doing. And she says tired. And then drops her book on the ground.
I feel so sorry for the old lady.
I do feel bad for Mrs. Bremmel, but she reminds me of a teacher that you and I both had for English class. Yeah, she reminds me of that. And so a man in the background, he's Mr. Tate. He makes a sly comment about retirement, and I could totally agree on that. Professor Furlong tells Nurse Harper that she should just go home, but she says that she's saving her sick days for when she feels better.
And that's on period
I feel
poo
that.
because same.
I feel
same.
that.
I don't want to
yep.
take a sick day and have to be at home. I'm going to take a day for myself and go do something while I'm supposed to be making money.
And so as Mr. Tate puts a little bit of alcohol in his coffee, he also makes the remark about how the air conditioner can be used and how the air conditioner can't be used and only the fan can be used. And I feel that. They up in there sweating. They really up in there sweating. Why can't they turn on the air? He's like, why can't this bitch turn on the air? I feel that. I don't want to be hot. And I figured out that this takes place in September, so I know it's hot outside.
Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine.
I'm sorry. If I was a teacher, I'd be like Mr. Tate. Put a little alcohol in my cup.
I would need some alcohol in my
If
cup.
I didn't have no air conditioning and I had to deal with them kids, no.
No.
Not me.
And so Furlong then makes the remark about how Coach is thirsty because I did not mention Coach Willis has been standing at the water cooler in the corner just chugging water like a complete weirdo.
Out
just
of those
chugging.
little paper cups,
Yes,
the little cones.
the little cone cups that you get at like the bank or something. Okay? And so as Mr. Tate leaves, Mrs. Olson comes in and she's sporting a new look, her plastic look. Her hair is all straight. She ain't got her glasses on. She has some thick ass eyeliner that does not suit her face very well.
She on point. She
And
like
honestly,
the old Barbie.
I thought she looked cuter before. Whenever, like before she like stabbed homegirl 6 times, I thought she was adorable. But that was just me. That's just me.
Now she look like plastic.
Plastique. And so in Mrs. Burke's class, they're discussing Caruso's greatest fear, and Zeke answers something about calluses, and she says, nope, his biggest fear was actually isolation. And he says, but his external existence in no way compares to the internal agony of the loneliness he felt. Which makes us assume that Zeke might actually be a little smart boy. And there's this look in his eyes whenever he's looking at Mrs. Burke that scream wannabe inappropriate student-teacher relationship, in my opinion.
I immediately thought of that like when I was a kid watching
Oh, me too.
this.
Me too. I was like, oh, he trying to fuck.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And she has feelings for him. You can
for
tell.
For sure.
But didn't he like fail out of a
Yes.
couple? Like he's like 19 or something.
So
already?
later on, she says that he did not have to repeat his senior year, but he decided to.
Huh.
So,
Okay.
I don't know. In the hallway, Stan is pissed, and he tells Delilah that he needs to talk. She wants to put him on the back burner again, and he just blurts out that he's just quitting football. She's in denial and questions him, and he basically says that he chooses his impending future, which I would assume needs to be something where he, like, needs to study a lot. But she says that his only shot to college is a football scholarship, and he says that if he quits now, he can work harder on studying and raising his grades, and he wants to go to college based on his intellect. I get that. That's valid. And she straight up calls him stupid.
This bitch.
And says that he should stick to what he's good at, football. And he wants to try something different, and she basically puts her own vanity before his feelings and breaks up with him. Because the head cheerleader just simply cannot date an academic wannabe. Ouch. What a stone cold bitch.
This is such a 90s movie.
It really is, but still.
Yeah, that was really rude of her to say that to him.
I don't like
he wants
her.
to focus on his studies. Like, what if he wants to be
smart.
like a normal person? Like, he can tell, like, after you go to college, if you're just playing football, like, what else are you going to be after that? You can go to college and get a bogus degree and do football, but like, what are you gonna do after that?
Exactly. If you're not smart, like you can't do anything beyond that, and football's not gonna last you your whole entire life. So,
just side note, this high school reminds me a whole lot of the high school from Cinderella Story.
I see that stuff
with Hilary Duff in it. I don't know why. Just this last time watching it just reminds me of that school.
I don't know. For some reason, every time I watch it, I kind of feel our high school peeking out. Not the new. I'm not talking about the new. I'm talking
old
about
high school.
I'm talking about specifically old building. You know what I'm saying? That, for some reason, I feel it in my bones.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could see myself in these hallways, you know?
I was wondering as we were watching, or as I was watching it, like, did I really slam my locker that hard to close it and lock my locker? Like, because I see Zeke and Stan closing their, they slam their locker, and I'm like, dang, did I do that?
I remember going to middle school. We had the little half lockers, and I remember trying to slam my locker closed. They don't close like that. It just flies back. Like, it legit just flies back. And then on top of that, we had, like, the little handheld locks. So it's not like it would lock automatically anyways. So, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they were just being extra dramatic for Hollywood.
Of course. It's Hollywood. It has to be a production. And so in Mr. Tate's class, he's being a drunk asshole as usual. And Stan has to correct him on what chapter they're on. And...
That would be me as a teacher. I'm sorry.
He's like, we're on chapter 4. And Stan's like, actually, we did that last week. We're on chapter 5. And he's like, whatever. I feel that. I don't care. And so Stokley's also there. And she feels eyes on her. And it's Marybeth staring her down. And so during lunch, Marybeth goes and sits with Stokley. And she kind of prefers to actually sit alone. And Marybeth asks what she's reading, and it's Double Star by Robert Heinlein. And she questions if Stokley is a science fiction type person, someone who believes in aliens and stuff like that. And Stokley doesn't answer, and Marybeth says that she's feeling a little alien today. Wink, wink. And she introduces herself as Marybeth Louise Hutchinson of Atlanta. I'm new here. And Stokley's like, no shit.
I'm Marybeth Louise Hutchinson of Atlanta. I'm new here.
No shit.
Stokley don't care.
She really does not care. Like, I strive to be like Stokley, just not giving a shit. And so Marybeth asks what her name is, and Stokley's like, why do you want to know my name? And Marybeth is like, I don't have any friends here, and it looks like you don't either. But then that bitch Delilah shows up, and she's like, oh, are you seducing the new students again? And Delilah and Marybeth introduce themselves to each other, and Delilah comments on Stokley wearing all black, and we get a sick burn from Stokley when she says,
fuck you, gutter slut.
I love it. And Delilah's like, you're setting a bad example for your people. And Marybeth is like, what people? And Delilah calls Stokley a violent lesbian. And Delilah runs Stokley off, and she's just being a fucking bully, and I don't like her at all. Not feeling it. And so out on the football field, or out on the football bleachers, Casey is eating lunch by himself, and he walks down and starts to wander around the track that's all around the field, and he sees something in the ground, and it's like a little brownish orange looking bug thing that's like dried up, and it's gross, and he picks it up, of course. And when he stands up, Coach is standing behind him, and he asks Casey what he's doing, and he's like, I'm just eating my lunch. And Coach is like, this isn't a cafeteria. And then questions, this isn't a cafeteria, son. And then he questions him on who he is and says that he's seen him around and that he doesn't seem like he's really into sports. And so Casey says that he doesn't believe that people should run unless they're being chased. I get that.
Period.
I get that. That's whenever I run my fastest. And then Coach gets real weird and repeats, being chased. I like that. What?
He's such a weirdo. And he's scary, like a scary character.
He's a scary weirdo. That's what he is. He's just scary.
It's his face.
And then he tells Casey to get out of there, and Casey just books it off the field.
He like made Casey jump.
He really did. He's like, get out of here. And he just like jumps back and starts running.
Oh, and by the way, I have a fun fact for y'all. A lot of the filming was done at a high school in Lockhart, Texas, and the football team was actually used, and the city was told to show up at the football game and like as extras and stuff. So.
Okay, I actually love that. If I lived there, I'd be like, hell yeah.
Yeah, it was a small town, so
small football town.
They didn't have anything else better to do.
Honestly, they probably would have all showed up for a football game anyway. So,
right.
Yeah. Yep. And so in the hallway, Stokley is walking around and she notices Mrs. Olsen staring at her. And it's a little bit weird. And Stokley gets some water and she watches Mrs. Olsen go into Mrs. Brimmel's office and she shuts the door. Weird. And as Stokley goes to walk off, she bumps into Stan and we get one of my favorite interactions of the movie. Stokley goes,
And get a fucking eye dog.
and Stan says,
Maybe if you didn't paint your fucking eyes shut.
Because she has dark eyeliner all around her eyes.
every time that part just gets me. Maybe if you didn't paint your fucking eyes shut.
Him and his little snaggletooth.
Snaggletooth. Oh my God.
He kind of cute though.
I told you this, last night? I had a crush on Stan whenever I was younger.
I was more of a Josh Hartnett.
I loved me some Josh Hartnett too, but Stan...
Because he was like a bad boy.
I don't know Stan. It was something about his curly sort of reddish hair and his little freckles. I don't know. I was just like, oh, he's kind of cute.
He was sweet.
He was sweet. I was like, oh, look at him. And so Casey goes to Furlong's classroom to show him the thing that he found in the field. And while Casey's talking to him, Marybeth comes up to Stokley and basically forces her to be her lab partner. She's being very invasive and I don't fucking like it.
Right.
And Marybeth is like, I didn't know you were a lesbian. I don't think I've ever met one before. That's some hick ass shit, Atlanta.
Right. From
okay?
Atlanta.
That's hick ass shit.
Bro,
Shut
there's
up.
lesbians all around you. They just haven't came out yet because it's the 90s.
Exactly. And she rambles on a little bit and Stokley is like, I'm not a lesbian. I just put on this face because I don't like people and that's my security. Okay, sis, go off. I'm here for it.
Right.
And Marybeth asks security from what? And Stokley says, people like you. Ouch.
But same, because
same.
Marybeth was a little annoying, with her little accent. And why you gotta keep repeating that you're Marybeth from freaking Atlanta? Everybody knows.
You forgot. You have to say Marybeth Louise Hutchinson.
Louise Hutchinson from Atlanta. And she's just annoying. She looks annoying with her big head.
She does have a big head, and
With
then
them-
she's just
with
pale.
them-
She's pale as hell. Her
them
hair,
bangs.
her hair does nothing for her. It does not warm up her skin tone whatsoever. And I'm just like, girlfriend, put some color on you. You need to go get some sunlight. But honestly, I guess it kind of makes sense.
Right.
I guess it makes sense. Moving along, Professor Furlong is now looking at the thing. And he says something about squid and octopi, which doesn't make any sense because they're in Ohio. And Furlong says that it's, pelagic.
Sounds about right.
And that means that it's a sea-dwelling organism. And he also says that Casey may have found a new species. Okay, Casey, we see you. And Zeke comes over and starts asking smart man questions, and he looks underneath the microscope as well. Furlong says that he's going to call the university and have them take a look at it, and Gabe,
Played by Ursha Baby,
makes the comment that maybe it's from Stokley's planet, and she says, blow me, and shoves his shoulder, which causes him to knock over a beaker of water, which falls onto the thing, and it starts moving. And so Furlong gets the bright idea to put it into a tank of water, and this little mofo releases these tentacle looking things and
That's
starts
scary.
Swimming around.
And why would he put his hand in that?
The fact that this man, I have it in my notes right here, Furlong gets the bright idea to put his hand into the tank
With
to
a white
touch
glove.
it.
With a white glove.
And so he goes in and he touches it. He's feeling on it and everything. And the little shit multiplies into two. And then one of them comes up and bites Furlong's finger. And he screams and he's like, ah, shit. And that moment, right before he screams, there's this noise in the background. And in the first scream, it's the noise that plays when Sydney opens up the door at her house and Dewey's standing there with the mask. It's literally the exact same noise. And so after the scream noise plays, Furlong yells and he's like, I'm okay. I'm sorry, sir. Are you sure about that? You don't look very okay. You're bleeding. And so meanwhile, Stan was telling the coach that he quits the team. And instead of being a hot-headed asshole, coach is just like, okay, and that they'll miss him. And Stan's like, You're not mad?
Right, which is weird because I expected him to go off.
Exactly. And coach says, what should I say? Our star quarterback is quitting the day before the big game. And he says that there's something up with that. And Stan must be going through some sort of life-defining moment and that he's not going to stand in the way of that. Weird because the coach is always an asshole, but okay. That's fine. You're just acting a little bit weird, sir. In the locker room.
USHERRAYMOND. Usher Raymond, baby.
And his friend are berating Casey for literally breathing. But Stan kind of like gets them off of Casey's back.
But pause. Hold up. We got to talk about Usher, okay?
Usher, baby.
Hold on. This was his first ever movie debut, okay? I found that under the fun facts on IMDb. And he was looking super cute. I know he was playing a high school football player.
Oh, yeah. No, whenever I was
younger. But he was looking super cute.
Oh.
And he was kind of ripped with them little muscles.
And whenever he would smile, I'm like, look at them dimples.
They should have put way more lines for him in the movie. Like, he can actually...
He did a pretty good job, in my opinion.
But
for it to be like a small role, I mean, he did a really good job. He could have definitely had more lines, in my opinion.
Sorry, I just wanted to shout out Usher because
we love Usher.
That's my boo. Like the song, my boo.
My boo, my boo. Okay.
My boo. Okay.
And so Stan goes into the shower, and Mrs. Bremmel comes in, and she's looking all half dead and shit. And she's butt-ass naked.
Skinny.
And she spewing some shit about how they're coming and they want everyone. And then she, like, comes up and Stan holds her for a second. And, like, Casey ran in and he's like, get help. But then he's holding her and her scalp literally comes off.
And I'm sorry, but this kind of shows, like, Stan's character. Like, he actually held her. Like,
yes.
Like if
she
it was me,
I'm sorry. Like, get off of me.
If it was me, I would have ran in circles and gotten out of that
I would
shower.
have been trying to dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge that woman.
Yes. But, like, it showed his character, and he, like, held her and was trying to rub her head. And he was naked himself, but, like, he was trying to really take care of her. And then he realized her scalp come off, and then he had to throw her down, because same. If I saw blood, I'm running.
If someone's scalp is coming off, I'm running.
Right.
If someone's coming up to me getting butt-ass naked, and it's an old teacher, and I'm just in here minding my own business trying to take a shower, like I said... I'm using the dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge, damn it.
She was all shaken and frail and just looked like she needed a wheelchair, really, like a rocking chair with a sweater on. I don't know.
Homegirl needed some hospice. That's what she needed. Yes. She don't need no fucking rocking chair. She needs some hospice. Because, damn... Mr. Tate was not kidding whenever he said, can you say retirement? I'm dying about the hospice thing. She needed it.
Yeah, she did.
And so, in the office, Casey and Stan are being asked about Mrs. Brummel, and Mrs. Olsen tells them that Mrs. Brummel has cancer and that she's on a lot of medication. But I'm sorry.
What type of medication would make your hair
Medicine
just like your scalp
cause your scalp to come the fuck off?
And take off all your clothes and go into a locker room shower.
I'm getting too hot. I want to take my clothes off.
She took that too literal.
She really did. And so Casey's looking through a window and he sees someone on the field just standing there menacingly. And the sprinklers are also going off. And so they just getting soaked. And he uses his little camera to zoom in, and it's Coach Willis.
Of course, scary.
Out there being a weirdo again.
Being scary.
In the parking lot, Zeke is conducting some very illegal business, selling fake Nev Campbell and Jennifer Love huge tit pornos. Love that for him. And it's the clear plastic VHS boxes for me. Like, that's for sure. The fucking clear boxes that you get from, like, Blockbuster or something. He literally just stole those.
You can see the title of the VHS.
You can see the VHS in the packaging.
Yeah.
And so Mrs. Burt comes up and tells Zeke that he cannot conduct business on school grounds. But Zeke isn't hearing it, and he offers her some chocolate-covered laxatives to get that stick out of her ass.
Ooh.
But she goes on and on about how he didn't have to repeat his senior year and he could have made up his finals in the summer. So he ends up offering her something a little bit better. Some cherry flavored Magnum condoms. What the actual fuck, Zeke? That is your teacher.
Because he wants her. He wants her.
But
he's over the age of 18.
He's a student. He's a student. It's inappropriate.
Very inappropriate, but it's a movie. It's a Hollywood movie.
And at the end of the day, she ain't having it, and she leaves.
Good for her.
Good for her. And so Delilah and Casey are back in the school, and they're trying to find leads for the school newspaper, and they decide to go into the faculty lounge to see if they can find a hard-hitting story. And Delilah finds out a hard-hitting story. Ooh. And so Delilah finds out that Nurse Harper's medicated. Big surprise. And then Casey finds Mr. Tate's flask, but Delilah says that she exposed his alcoholism last year.
And nobody
cares. Especially his wife when she ran away with the babysitter. Ouch.
That's why your wife left you.
No wonder the man drinks.
No wonder he's just in a bad mood.
The man has a broken marriage. He has to teach these little shit-ass kids, and it's hot in there. No wonder he drinks.
Poor Mr. Tate.
I feel bad for Mr. Tate. Justice for Mr. Tate. And so Casey whispers under his breath about how Delilah can be such a... But before he can finish, Delilah is like, such a what? So Casey pipes up and calls her a pretty cool human being when she's not being a first-class grade A bitch. Burn.
Ouch.
And Delilah asks if he's hitting on her, and Casey says no, but she can just kind of be cool sometimes.
And she's smiling ear to ear, like looking like a dummy because she thinks everybody wants her.
Nobody wants you, Delilah. But then their convo is cut short when Casey sees some people coming into the room. So he pulls Delilah into a closet with him, and Mrs. Olsen and Coach Willis walk in. They both go over to the water cooler. Coach grabs a drink, and Mrs. Olsen just splashes herself in the face with water. Okay, Mrs. Olsen. And she asks where Mrs. Brummel is, and Coach says that she didn't make it, and her body was too old, and that the heat got to her. And
the heat.
They discuss the climate and how it compromises their nervous system. And Coach asks if the whole faculty has been commuted, and she says almost. And when asking about the students, Mrs. Olsen says soon. Okay. And then Nurse Harper walks in, and they fucking attack her as Casey and Delilah just watches on in the closet. And Coach gets on top of Nurse Harper, and he's all up in her face, turns her head. His face turns all veiny and scary, and then something shoots out of his mouth into her ear. Casey and Delilah start moving around in the closet, making noises, and then Mrs. Brimmel's body falls into the closet. Holy shit. And Coach walks over and opens the door, and Casey runs out and hits Coach with a broom, and Delilah knocks Miss Olsen over, which that shit was funny as fuck. I'm sorry.
Plastic.
Her plastic ass being knocked over, it was funny. And they run out, and they end up running into Miss Drake, the principal from earlier, who was stabbed 6 times, remind you. And they're trying to tell her what happened. And then Mr. Tate comes up, and he's like, who attacked who? What's going on? So
and
Casey,
she just acting, and the principal, she's just acting like...
She's just like, I just walked into this.
Right.
I don't know what's going on.
She's the type of woman I would want to smack. Like, she looks like she would be a Karen. Because as she was talking to them, she had this smile on her face, like... Oh, I'm about to, like, change your mind about this. Like, what? Like, this woman, I don't know. It was that smile that just...
It's a very condescending smile.
Yeah.
And so, Casey tries again to tell them what happened. And they turn around and Delilah says, there's Nurse Harper, ask her. But Nurse Harper looks totally fine. And Delilah and Casey are like, fuck this. And they run off. But of course, Casey being Casey, he slips and falls, and Delilah runs off without him, but he's able to get up and run off as well. Casey and his parents call the police, and they, along with the police, show up to the school, and they walk up to the faculty lounge.
Oh, guess who's the police officer?
Hold on, I haven't gotten to that yet. Hold on.
Because I'm excited.
Hold on. And so They go to the faculty lounge, and Casey says that Mrs. Brummel was in the closet because the faculty put her there. And the police go in to check, but there's something else in the closet. It's not Mrs. Brummel. It's a CPR doll named Resusci Annie, which, not so fun fact, listen to this shit. And I think I heard it on the Morbid podcast. Go listen to them. Did you know that the Resus doll's face is actually based on the unknown woman of Sin? Or it's Sen, I think. And Asmund Lateral took the unidentified woman who drowned in the river of Seine around the late 1880s, and he used her face as the Resus doll because he thought that male trainees might be reluctant to kiss a man's face. What the actual fuck? Just a little fun fact.
It was the 80s and 90s. People were like homophobic, and
I don't know if that's exactly when he put her face on the doll.
Well, they were homophobic before that.
Yeah, they were definitely homophobic. But yeah, they used a dead woman's face as the resuscitation doll's face. So there's that. Anyway.
Annie.
Yep. Casey says that the doll wasn't there and that they, the faculty, put the doll there. And they need to call Delilah. The police say that they tried calling her, but she's not home. But Casey is insistent that they attack Nurse Harper. And Miss Drake says that Nurse Harper is epileptic. And then Coach pipes in and says she had an attack. And Miss Drake insists that she took Nurse Harper home herself and that the police can call her. And so they go to the office, and the male officer goes into Miss Drake's office with her, and she shuts the fucking door. Hell no. And Casey's parents are questioning him, and the mom even mentions a professional. And I got questions. You think this kid needs a shrink?
And the
Because,
dad,
like, has he acted out before? Because this movie has led me to believe this entire time that Casey's a good kid. He's quiet and picked on, but still a good kid, which probably makes really good grades and never does anything to get in trouble. And now the mom is bringing up a shrink. I have a lot of questions, okay? And so meanwhile, inside the office, we hear a thud. And why didn't the other cop go in? I have no idea. But now the dad confirms that yes, Casey is a straight A student, and also questions why the mom brought up a shrink. And I'm so glad I was not alone in that question, because I'm like, why? All of a sudden. Right. That's very sudden to jump to. And so Casey is like, I know what I saw. And Miss Drake and the male cop come out, and he's looking hella off and nods to Casey. And they done got the police. And at this moment is when I realized.
And I realized before when I first saw him, but okay.
I realized, because I'm a dumbass and I haven't seen this movie in a long time, and I just didn't see it, that is the same guy who plays Joel in Scream 2.
He's the only smart one.
My favorite motherfucker from that movie. And the fact that it took me this long to realize that that's Joel. I love Joel. Anyways.
Oh, and Casey's dad is from Happy Gilmore.
Oh my gosh, Christopher McDonald.
I love Christopher McDonald.
I even say it like later on in here. As Casey's dad, Homeboy was looking kind of fine. I'm not gonna lie.
I want him in Happy Gilmore.
No cap. Christopher McDonald.
He reminds me of, like, he probably was the star quarterback back in his day. Sure. And he just, got a nice job after doing college football. Like, I don't know. He just seems like that type of dad, because he doesn't seem like he's very connected with Casey and doesn't feel like really care about his academics. He just cares about, like, if he, like, makes him look good.
Right. Acts quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
And so the police leave, and Miss Drake tries to speak privately with Casey's mom, but he's like, no, I'll go see the doctor, whatever you want, but can we just go on and get?
He didn't want his mama turning into one of them.
And so as they're leaving, Miss Drake says, see you tomorrow, Casey, and winks. There is something going on, clearly.
It's that smile, condescending, like,
She has a very punchable face.
Yeah,
and
she looks like a Karen.
It's
like,
the makeup, and then the pearls. She wears pearls all the time too, and I'm just like, you just need a good smack in the face with, like, a sock filled with fucking soap bars or something.
Agreed.
Like, and so at Casey's house, his dad is straight up tearing up his room to try to find drugs now.
In this scene, it made me have a flashback to when my sister and we broke our cell phone, our flip cell phone, and
God.
both of our rooms got, like, went through, like, our parents removed all of our TVs, all of our toys, anything that gave us any type of enjoyment.
The only thing that we had were our beds and our dressers.
And a book to read.
If we even had any books. We got everything taken away for breaking a flip phone in half.
And we could not watch the family TV in the living room.
No. And it was all summer, too.
But when I saw this scene, that's what my mind immediately went to.
And so the dad is like, we want to help you. And Casey is like, then believe me. And Casey says that there's something wrong, especially with the teachers. And Casey insists on calling Delilah. And at that point, we see that he has photos of her on his wall. Oh,
Little stalker.
Little stalky boy, huh? Up there stalking people. And the dad is taking away all of his privileges, which include the phone, the internet, music, and in the words of Casey's dad, no more flogging the bishop, meaning no more porn mags for him. And after Casey's dad messed up his room, he tells him that he needs to clean it up. Some bullshit. I used to hate that whenever we would get in trouble and Mama and Daddy would come in there and mess up our room and then tell us that we need to clean it up.
Yes.
I'm like, excuse the hell out of me. Watching that and then him saying that, all I could see was red in that moment.
Scarred for life.
Like,
for real.
and so Casey decides that he's going to sneak out of his window, I guess to go see Delilah, but he is rudely interrupted when he sees Coach, Mrs. Olsen, and Mr. Tate standing outside of his front gate.
This was funny.
And Casey trips and falls out of his second-story window onto the roof and then falls down into some bushes. And he crawls out, and they start approaching him, but luckily Zaddy came out to save the day. And
Zaddy.
Casey was like, the faculty, which, roll credits. And his dad makes him go back inside. And I don't know what it was about this shot of the daddy, but damn it, Christopher
when
McDonald.
he's walking away with
when
them,
he's
with
looking,
them magazines in that hand.
Ooh. I'm like, I know you're about to go look at the magazines, Christopher McDonald, but you can look at me instead.
And your khaki pants with your
With
shirt
your
tucked.
khaki pants. Oh my god.
I don't even know if it was tucked, but it was probably tucked.
It probably was. He looks like the type of motherfucker that would tuck in his shirt with a belt.
He like parts the side of his hair and combs it over.
I don't
He looks
think
like
he
it.
did.
He looks like he would
looked
be
like
that
he
type.
would, but I don't think he does. But still, Christopher McDonald.
All I keep picturing is Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore.
Yes.
And so the next day at school, Casey's dad is dropping him off, and Alex Cooper's I'm 18 is playing in the background. And Casey's insisting on not going back there, but Zaddy is like, come straight home after school, and your mom is looking into a doctor. Okay. So they really gonna get this kid a shrink.
Like, he was literally begging his dad, oh, please don't let me. Like, he looked so sad. And I'm sorry, if I was him, I wouldn't have walked into that. I would have walked into that school, and then when the bell rang, ran the fuck out.
So I have this in my notes. Okay, personally, I don't have kids, so I'm gonna get your take on this. But if I did, and they were insistent on not going back to their school, and they were insistent on the fact that there's something amiss going on at their school, whether it be some weird parasite shit or not, I might have actually believed him.
I would have taken my kid out of that school
If they
super
were
fast.
that insistent,
the moment they called me, the moment he came home and said, I need to call the police, I would have unenrolled my kid
and I mean,
that
he
night.
seems to be about 17 years old. So like, he knows like police is like serious business, you know?
Right. He's
You
not
don't
like a little kid.
Right. You don't just bring the police into it, you know? Once that's brought in, that means that it's serious and he don't need to be going back. But this just shows that these fucking parents are dumb. Like,
saying that he's doing it for quote unquote attention. Okay.
and so Casey gets up and he leaves, and as he's walking into the school, Coach comes up and starts talking to Daddy. Okay, that It's not cool. It's not cool. He does not need to be infested with these parasites, okay? And so in the hallway, everything seems pretty cool except two things. One, all of the faculty is staring at Casey. And two, Delilah looks fucking ridiculous with her glasses and ponytail. And they go into a bathroom and Miss Drake starts calling students into threes into her office. That's suspicious. And Casey asks Delilah if she told her parents, and she says that her mom didn't believe her because she drinks, of course. There always has to be one kid in these like 90s movies that they have a parent that drinks. I'm just saying.
Right.
And she says that they need to go to the police. Casey says that they have the police, but Delilah questions it. And they're trying to figure out who they are. And Casey is like, maybe it's a cult. Maybe they worship the comments. Who the fuck knows? And Delilah says that she's not going to hide in the bathroom forever and that she's going to go find Stan, and Casey follows her. And so in the faculty lounge, they're turning on the AC and they're chugging hella water. And we get all these shots. There's just one shot in particular of all these water bottles filling the cabinets. And there's a sign on the wall that I never noticed before. And it reads, "The floggings will continue until moral improves."
Floggings.
I'm sorry. Are the teachers being flogged? Are the students being flogged? I'm confusion. And as they're like, there's these shots of these people drinking all this water, we get these nasty gulping noises, and I'm not here for it. It's really gross. And in Mr. Tate's class, Marybeth is standing with Stokley, and Miss Drake is over the intercom calling more students. And Marybeth notices Stokley eyeing Stan, and she pushes Stokley into his lap. And Stokley gets up and asks if he's ready for the big game. And he admits to her that he quit the team.
This is a sweet moment for me. It
is. And she asks why, and he says that he's tired of everyone kissing his ass because he's the captain of the football team. Valid. And he talks about how with one of the games that they won, and Stokley chimes in and says that they won because of him. And he's like, I wouldn't have guessed that you keep up with the games, which is really cute.
Right.
And he continues that he made a D on a biology test right after, but Furlong ended up changing it to an A instead. And he insists that he wants his D, that he deserved that D.
Which is stupid to me, but
rightfully so. Rightfully so.
Right.
And you can tell that there's some chemistry between them because it's so easy for Stan to talk to her. Even though just yesterday, he told her not to paint her fucking eyes shut. So, it's just really cute. Development, you know? And anyways, Mr. Tate is now in class and he tells everyone that they're going to write a living family history. Stan asks if this is going to be on the test, and Mr. Tate says, This is the test. Okay, Mr. Tate, with your weird test. We see you. And in the hall, Zeke is grabbing some scat from his locker, and Marybeth sees and asks what it is. And he says, do you want some? And she says no, that she's allergic to aspirin and that could possibly kill her.
Uh-huh.
But how did she know that there was aspirin in that? How did she know?
Probably because it was just white powder, I don't know.
She introduces herself, full name again, and he introduces himself, and then they end up walking to class. And we see in the hall that there's a line of students who are needed in the office, and Stan approaches Stokley and comments on how weird it is. Stokley walks up the hall to see if she can see what's going on, and she sees Nurse Harper conducting ear exams right before the door is shut by Miss Drake. Weird. And then Stan gets approached by
Usher, baby.
And
Usher
tells him that he's the new team captain. Oh, okay, we see you, Usher, baby. And Stan asks what's going on, and Usher confirms that she is giving ear exams. But then Miss Olsen walks up with the police, and Stan questions it. And that is very
right,
weird.
why you need the police for ear exams, but okay. And why is the school giving ear exams anyway?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I would be like, I'm out of here.
That's weird.
I don't want you touching me.
And so Delilah goes to grab Stan and is like, I gotta talk to you. But then Casey approaches Stokley and says that he needs to talk to her. Outside, Marybeth is talking to Zeke, and we see the couple who were fighting each other at the very beginning, and the guy is just sitting there staring at them. And the girl is straight up just yelling at him, hitting him, trying to get his attention, and it's some funny shit.
And this was the very moment I realized he's from one of the Scream movies.
No, it's not Scream. He's on
a Scary Movie.
He plays Bobby in Scary Movie.
Yes, in the first one.
And Zeke notices, and he starts like looking around and questions Marybeth that if she notices something that's off at the school. Like the giant line to the water fountain that like everyone is at and people are like chugging water. And she says that they all seem off to her. And the douchebags from the day before that he dealt to ask if he had more scat, and he sells them more. And the doucher on the right that I'm not going to name.
They acting all tweaky.
Yes, the doucher on the right that I'm not going to name because fuck that guy. Asks if he has more.
That's why you in prison now.
Right, 30 years to life, motherfucker.
We don't like him.
Yeah, don't even.
We're not even going to say his name.
We're not even going to get into all
not
that.
even his character name.
Piece of shit.
On one of the longest running TV series, but okay.
Anyways, the doucher on the right asks if he has more, and Zeke sells him more. And then the doucher on the left is like, do you have any more? And they're insistent on getting more. Fucking tweakers, man.
Now, when I was first watching it, like, when I was a kid, I was like, oh, they just, like, really like drugs. But this time that I watched it just recently, I realized I think they were catching on that stuff. Well, I'm not going to spoil it, but basically...
No, you can spoil it. This episode, if you haven't watched this movie, I'm sorry, we're just going to spoil it now, whatever.
I feel like they already realized that the scat is not good for their species. So I feel like they're trying to buy it all, like, from him, so he has nothing else.
And see, I thought about that whenever I was younger.
Because they were asking, like, do you have any more in your car?
Yes. Do you have any
at
in your
home?
locker
Like,
at home? Like, and it was the way they were looking with their eyes. Either that, or at this watching, I was thinking maybe they're asking because they've already been infected, and they're like, let's make sure that we get all of this so we can destroy it.
Right.
That was your
point.
thing. Okay.
Yeah, that's my point.
I wasn't sure if you meant like they knew that it was going to hurt that species, so they were just going to keep doing it to make sure that they stayed human.
No, they were going to get it, like, to destroy it.
Okay.
Like, they're not going to use that. That's why they were buying more and more and more. Like, you know.
They're like, we going to get all this shit off the street because we going to take over this bitch.
Right.
And so then Miss Burke walks up with a fire-ass glow-up. Ooh. She don't look like no wallflower no more. She look like the baddest bitch in town.
Ooh.
And Zeke tries to walk away, but she straight up fires his ass up.
Calls him little boy and everything.
She calls him a pathetic little runt. And Zeke is like, what are you going to do, call my mother? And she questions, how is she supposed to do that if no one knows where she is? Because she's been hiding from her great big bastard mistake.
Damn. That was a burn.
She says that she has taken his shit for way too long and that he is a dickless, drug-induced excuse for a human being.
But he kind of deserved it.
He did.
I feel like he deserved this.
He did. Absolutely. And he calls her a woman, and she's big pissed about that.
She said, did you just call me woman?
She's like, woman? Did you just call me woman? And she says that she is sick of him, and if she sees him peddling his Wonder Dust again, she's going to shove her foot so far up his ass that he's going to be sucking her toes until graduation. Mic drop.
And then she walks the fuck off.
She walks off, and Zeke is just left stunned. He's like, what the hell just happened?
I think he just had like a realization, like, damn, like something really is happening at this school.
Yes, the fact that Miss Burke went off on him, crazy. So meanwhile, Casey is telling Stokley about everything in the library. And Stokley mentions invasion of the body snatchers, and Casey gets the bright idea that they might be aliens. And Stokley says that everything that he is saying is science fiction, but Casey says that there's totally a possibility that they could be aliens. And Stokley says that in Puppet Masters, another Robert Heinlein book, they were actually parasites. Dun dun dun, parasites, y'all. And so Casey, Stokley, Delilah, and Stan go into Furlong's classroom to see the specimen that is no longer in the tank. And they doubt that Furlong sent it to the university, and Stan is like, someone tell me what's going on. So Casey fills him in about the specimen and how they think that aliens are taking over the school. Stan thinks that it's a joke, and they start making points as to why that could be happening. Meanwhile, Zeke and Marybeth sneak into the storeroom, and Zeke lights a cigarette and proceeds to steal equipment for his little science lab at home. And it starts to heat up a little bit. They kiss.
Ooh.
And then they overhear the alien talk coming from the vents. And back in Furlong's room, Delilah and Stan are arguing, and Delilah tells Stan to leave and to take his, insert very inappropriate word for lesbian here, and Stokley delivers another sick burn with
Fuck you, tit bags.
And Stan questions as to why aliens would want to take over Ohio, of all places. And I'm also curious because Ohio is blech, okay? Casey asks if he was going to take over the world, would he blow up the White House like Independence Day, or would he sneak in through the back door?
Period.
Makes sense. And suddenly, Zeke bursts in and scares the shit out of everyone. And Marybeth is behind him. And Zeke's acting like a dick and calls Casey the alien. But then Furlong comes in and interrupts everyone. Zeke is like, Casey thinks you're an alien. Furlong,
just out of nowhere,
Furlong's like, what's going on here? And he's like, Casey thinks you're an alien, basically. And Furlong giggles a little bit, but then proceeds to pull the shade down on the door, which is really sus. And Zeke tries to leave, but Furlong grabs his arm and throws him on the ground. Shit starts getting real. Casey gets choked out. Delilah gets smacked in the face. Stokley's trying to help, but is being held back by Stan, which is so cute. But then Zeke decides to grab one of those big ass paper cutter things, and he breaks the blade off, and he cuts Furlong's fingers off.
But how did he break that blade off? Like, he had super strength.
He got that super strength. And Furlong knocks Zeke onto a table, and he drops the blade. And this thing comes out of Furlong's mouth, and Zeke stabs him in the eye with some scat, okay? This causes Furlong to get off him for a second. Furlong's little fingies are moving towards Marybeth on the floor, and then they climb up Delilah and Zeke. Zeke is able to kick Furlong away, get off the table, and then Furlong pushes him into the glass tank that was filled with water. There's water everywhere. Furlong approaches Zeke, and then the pin that's sticking out of his eye starts oozing this white shit everywhere. And Furlong basically, dies on the floor. It's nasty.
Fast.
And the bell rings, and Stokley says...
This is usually the point where somebody says, let's get the fuck out of here.
And Stan follows up with...
Let's get the fuck out of here.
Period.
And Casey grabs one of the things from the floor, and they all book it to the parking lot. That was always such a stressful scene for me.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's more stressful now that when they go into the parking lot, for me.
Now that they're going into the parking lot, oh my gosh. So they're walking. Everyone is just staring at them. And it's obvious that there's something off. That scares the hell out of me. I don't like people staring at me.
It was like every single person has been infected except for them at this point.
And they know. They're like, those are the humans there. They are well aware of who the fuck is who. And we even see the arguing couple that was from earlier. They're being lovebirds, and it's weird. And we hear people whispering about them. People are whispering their names. Every once in a while, you'll hear Casey, and then you'll hear Zeke, and then you'll hear Stokley. And it's just really creepy. And they go to Zeke's car, and Usher, baby, approaches Stan, and he's acting super weird. But Stan gets in the car, and they burn rubber the fuck out of there. Zeke tries to check the radio, but all of the stations are off the air. And then there's this police checkpoint, and Zeke says, fuck this, turns around and peels off.
Same. They
arrive to Zeke's house, and it's nice. It's a nice little cute house. And they go to the garage.
Right, for somebody that doesn't have parents.
Literally.
How did you get that nice ass house?
They go to the garage, which is actually Zeke's little laboratory. And Casey asks where his mom is, and Zeke says, Europe, he thinks. So clearly the woman has some money. And everyone looks around, and Marybeth discovers that the secret to scat is caffeine pills. Casey gives Zeke the specimen that he grabbed off the floor so Zeke can examine it, and he cuts it open, and he feeds it to a little white mouse. And instead of eating it,
Poor baby.
the little specimen goes through the mouse's ear, and it's really nasty.
Poor little mouse.
I felt so bad for that mouse. Its name was Oscar.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Oscar. And, like, the little Oscar seems pretty normal, but Zeke just kills him. And he wants to be able to examine the body to see what happened. And so Zeke cuts open the little mouse body, and he finds the parasite, which he explains that it attaches to the host, and then it controls the host. And he says that it's incomplete. It can survive on its own, but it's part of a larger thing. He says that it needs a host, something moist, and that it dried out the inside of the mouse. Stan says that the human body is composed mostly of water, and Stokley says that they're using them. Zeke explains that explains what happens to Furlong. The drugs in scat are a diuretic, so it dries out the thing and it ends up killing it. And so Marybeth asks Stokley how they can stop it, since she knows the most about sci-fi. And she says, in theory, they're all connected. So if they kill the master, they can get them all, which makes sense. And Delilah thinks that they should just get the hell out of Dodge. But Casey asks, where will they go? It's all going to spread eventually, which is so scary to think about.
Right.
That is so scary. Like, there's no running. You can either fight or just let it happen. And I'm not just letting that shit happen. Stan makes a point that they wouldn't even know if one of them were alien at that moment, and Stokley says that in Body Snatchers, everyone lost their emotions. Stan says that Coach had emotions and that he was different somehow. And then Delilah's ass pipes in and is like, the star quarterback suddenly quitting the team? That's sus. Delilah says that she's just pointing out some of his slightly odd behavior, and he says that he's not an alien, he's just discontent. I feel that. He mentions how she hasn't been without her contacts and hairspray since birth. Why now? And she says that she's incognito. Still sus. No.
We hear you, Delilah.
Stokley says that they need to trust each other, and Delilah questions why Stokley suddenly likes boys. She sees Stokley. She sees the way that Stokley looks at Stan. And Marybeth chimes in and says that Stokley's not a lesbian, but Delilah counteracts that by saying everything was fine until she showed up. Zeke tells Delilah to shut up, but then Stan turns on Zeke, and Delilah turns on Casey.
They're all turning on each other.
Everyone's turning on each other. And Stan says that their arguing has been getting them nowhere. Outside, we see a car pull up, and Zeke says that he has a solution. Everyone takes some scat, since they know that it can out all of the aliens. Okay. It's very The Thing-esque with like the heat test and everything. Right. Okay. Everyone is acting scared, but Zeke makes Casey go first. He takes it. So far, so good. And Zeke and Stan start to argue because Zeke says that he doesn't get high on his own stash. But then we have one of the greatest moments ever when Casey starts to tweak out. He's giggling and repeats, "You're taking it," and then giggles and shit. And Stan pulls the gun on Casey, and Zeke's like,
Nothing's wrong with him, you asshole. He's tweaking. Let him fucking tweak.
And he's laughing his ass off with Stan holding a gun to his head.
yes. And so Stan then ends up pointing the gun at Zeke, and so Zeke takes some scat as well. And then Zeke is like, "It's your turn, Stanny." So Zeke grabs the gun, and Stan snorts the scat, and Zeke ends up handing Stokley some, and she claims that the drug is so 80s, but Zeke is like, "Aliens are taking over, just fucking take it." Okay.
And so she did that shit.
She did that shit. She takes it. And then Stan starts tweaking with Casey as well. Zeke now hands some over to Delilah, but Delilah says that Marybeth needs to take some first. Marybeth claims that she's allergic, but Zeke bursts out laughing, And everyone in there's tweaking except for Marybeth and Delilah.
They having a good old time. They feeling good.
Zeke then asks if Delilah's always this much fun, and Stan says no. Sometimes she can be a real bitch. All while laughing. They're giggling their asses off. They just sitting up there airing everything out. And so Zeke says that Delilah and Marybeth need to both take it at the same time, motherfuckers. And they both go to take it, and Delilah flips the hell out. She has like these worm slug looking things moving around in her face.
She turns around, it's all dramatic. Like,
Casey ends up pointing the gun at Zeke, and then Zeke is like, shoot her. Everyone's like, shoot her. But then Delilah's like, there's nowhere to hide. We're everywhere.
and Stokley comes around and grabs the gun and says, I'll fucking shoot her.
And she starts shooting.
Yes.
And
Same.
in the midst of all that, Delilah destroys the lab and then runs out into the car that was waiting outside. Big yikes. That was so dramatic. And Casey tells Zeke that they can get them back, but Zeke reveals that she destroyed most of his shit. But Casey then says that if they can kill the queen, they can get them back. So as Zeke walks back to the lab, Marybeth walks up giggling. Shut up, Marybeth. Read the fucking room.
Right.
And so in the car, they've all loaded in and they're heading to the big game. Another Brick in the Wall is playing, but not by Pink Floyd. It's by Class of 99. Never heard of her. At the game, the Herrington Hornets are whooping ass and taking names while also infecting other players. And the other team, they're just being dominated. It's dramatic. There are fireworks going off. And Stan and Stokley went into the game, and they think that they can find Miss Drake.
Oh, and you forgot how Coach Willis said to Usher Baby, said, rip their fucking heads off. And he goes, will do, and runs out and actually beats the shit out of one of the quarterbacks or whoever is playing on that team, the opposite team. I don't know football. But
Football
yeah.
players.
Yeah.
They was just whooping some ass. And so they spot Miss Drake and Mrs. Olsen talking. Stan and Stokley meet the others back in the gym inside, but Miss Drake followed them. They attack Miss Drake and tie her to a volleyball net, and they hold her at gunpoint to try to make her take some scat. She says no. And while this is happening, Zeke went to go lock all the doors, and Casey says that he'll do like he did Furlong and stab it into Miss Drake's eye. Casey starts to wuss out a little bit, but Zeke just takes the gun and shoots the bitch in the forehead. Shit. And she falls out onto the floor. Blood starts pooling. But then she arises, and little slugs and shit are coming out of the bullet hole.
Ugh.
And Marybeth, God! She gets the bright idea.
She did this shit on
to
purpose.
pour all of the scat on to Miss Drake.
All of it.
All of it. Like a dumbass. They go to the window to see if it worked, but now it's starting to rain and everyone's going home. And Stan is like, I'm going to go out and check it out. Zeke gives him one of the last 2 pens that they have of scat and tells him to use it wisely. As they're about to leave, Stokley grabs him and kisses him and says that she wanted to make sure she was able to do that.
So sweet.
That's cute. On the field, we get the iconic shot of all of the players and the coach just standing in the rain, absorbing the water, and all of their faces are messed up and they have tentacles coming out of them. And the coach sees Stan and it just like stops, right? Back in the school, Stan runs up on everyone that's standing at the doors and he's like, let me in, open up the door. It's actually the coach. And they tell him that he needs to prove it. And he's like, look, I lost that last pin of scat that you gave me. And they're like, here, take the last one. And so he goes to take it. But then he proceeds to pour it all out. And I just have to say, there was just something about him staring whenever he was pouring that out that I was like, damn, Stan, why you looking so good?
Man, I hated him at that point.
Oh, me too. I hated him
so
I
bad.
hated him, but I love me a bad boy. I don't know. It was just something about it.
You can have Stan.
And so he's been infected, clearly. And he tries to convince Stokley to open the door, telling her that it's so much better. There's no fear or pain, and she'll be beautiful. No problems or worries. They want her, and that he wants her. But now open the fucking door! Stan then just like runs the fuck off. Like he says, he yells, open the fucking door, and then just runs off. Back in the gym, Casey says that they should try to get the coach. Marybeth says that they're unarmed, but Zeke remembers that he may have some more scat in the car. So Casey and him both head out to the car. They go amongst the buses and they see the team like coming right at them. So they hide under the buses and they make a plan that Casey's going to be the decoy while Zeke runs to the car. Casey runs out, so all the players chase him, and he ends up going inside of a bus to try to hide. But then Delilah's bitch ass has to pop up, and she taunts him.
In just a random bus, by the way.
Literally just in a random bus.
There was like 20 buses there, and it was just one random bus that
I
she
think
was
she
in.
could sniff him out.
Oh, okay.
I'm just guessing.
Gotcha.
I don't know. She taunts him, calls him a loser, and says that he's pathetic. And she says that she can help him not be a loser anymore. And right as like all of the football players are like coming up and they're like trying to break into the bus, he uses the rooftop like escape route, I guess. Okay, smart. And he ends up running out and everyone's chasing him. Zeke gets to his car and out pops Miss Burke. And she asks what he's looking for, and he says, I guess she changed her mind about the laxatives, but she says, nope, she was thinking of something more cherry flavored. And he says that he's out of those, but then he spots the scat that's like inside the car. And he says that he has something else for her, though.
He's going to hook her up.
She asks if it's something tasty, but then he jumps into the car and she proceeds to throw herself into the car via the window, and he ends up like driving so crazy that she falls into the back seat of the car, and Zeke drives like a maniac. He's trying to put his seatbelt on and he does it right at the last minute as he's about to ram into a bus. The bitch blows up. Miss Burke flies through the windshield. Okay? Zeke gets out. He has a few scrapes, but he's fine. He gets out the car. He has a few more pins of scat. And he sees Miss Burke's tentacle fucking head crawling around on the floor trying to find her body. And it's really gross and weird. And at this moment, I realized how bad the CGI was in this movie.
Yes.
Because those tentacles coming out of her head and then the little CGI head, it was not a thing. Zeke says, fuck this, and runs off. Back in the gym, Marybeth and Stokley are discussing the aliens. And Marybeth says that maybe if they give in, that they would be winning too. She says that Stan didn't look unhappy, but Stokley says it's because they took away who he was. Marybeth says that maybe they just bettered who he was. She also says...
These are some red flags.
Yep. She also knows that Stokley prides herself in being an outsider, but isn't she tired of being something that she isn't? Stokley looks at her and gets a punch in the face with a tentacle arm. It has been Marybeth this entire time. She has been the queen. Like... and
From Atlanta.
Yes. And she's just been running shit. Okay? She changes into some alien being right as Casey runs in after being chased by the football team. He and Stokley make a run for it, and Marybeth, of course, follows, and they go into like the indoor pool room, and right as they're about to run out and leave, Stokley gets knocked out and pulled under by a tentacle arm. She's able to wake up right before being attacked while she's in the water, and Casey helps to pull her out, and they hide in the locker room. And Marybeth emerges from the pool in her naked-ass human form, and she follows them into the locker room. Zeke walks into the locker room, and he's trying to just find anyone and everyone. And Stokley chimes in, but Marybeth is also there, and they're doing the whole, it's her, no, it's her type of thing. And Zeke notices something. He asks Marybeth why she naked, because she literally just standing there.
For real, that's a valid question.
Tits and ass just hanging out.
Like, you're at a high school, like, in a locker room.
And
Why are
you just had
naked?
clothes on. You just had clothes on.
Right. Naked and wet. Okay.
Literally. And she doesn't answer. And Zeke says that he saw her take the test. But we get a little flashback. And it shows her little tentacle fingy uncapping the pin. So all the shit came out before she was actually able to take the test. And Zeke pulls out a pin of scat ready to attack her, but then Stokley grabs his hand. At this point, she's been turned too, and tentacles start emerging from her mouth, but Casey grabs her from behind and shoves her into a cage that holds football shit. I don't understand that, but
Me either. But it's a cage with the door.
You know what? Maybe they locked it because they're like, this is where all of our investment money is going into.
Maybe.
All of the football stuff. And so while that was happening, Marybeth ran off and Zeke gets Casey and makes him take some scat. Understandable. He's like, I've been gone 5 minutes and everyone's fucking aliens. Just take the shit.
And Casey took it willingly.
Yes,
like,
I
was
would
not
have too.
playing.
I would have been like, okay, bet. Like, maybe this will give me some energy to fight this bitch.
Right.
Okay, and so then they try to hide from Marybeth, and poor Casey is just high as hell. He's talking about how he's seeing double, and he ends up losing Zeke, which was kind of good because Zeke is kind of like thrown across the locker room, and he is out. Casey tries to wake him up, and then he takes the scat that was left on the floor by Zeke, and Marybeth is just looking for Casey, telling him about her homeland and how it dried up, and she escaped and came here, and she has been walking around naked this entire time. Like, girl, put some clothes on, put a towel on, a robe, something.
Like, titties and ass just out.
And it's kind of a tense standoff, but Casey's able to evade her, and she turns into this, like, monster-looking creature thing, and they run into the gym, and Casey he has a smart idea right here. He goes to, like, turn on the bleachers, and it, like, pushes them into the wall, closes them up. And when the thing starts coming in, he turns it on and he runs behind the bleachers as they're closing, and it starts to follow him, right? And it ends up getting stuck right as it's closing. So Casey grabs some scat and says,
Guaranteed to jack you up.
Before stabbing it in the eye. And like these little slug things start flying out and they embed into Casey's face. And we all think that he's about to be turned. But then the creature dies and all of the slugs just start to fall out and like dry up and die. And we get a shot of Casey like falling onto the floor, staring at the creature. And I'm pretty sure that in that moment, they actually did use practical effects up until they turn it into shitty CGI whenever it like turns white and staticky. Like that's weird. But Casey goes back to the locker room and he lets Stokley out of the cage and he wakes her up and she's back to normal and they hug, but then they get a jump scare from Zeke and he's still alive. I'm so glad. And Casey says that it's over and we fade out, but the movie is not over yet. A month later, we're back on the football field. Coach is being his regular asshole self, and he's yelling at the team. And this is kind of intercut with a reporter talking about what happened, but they do not confirm that it was aliens. We see Zeke has now started football. Okay, boy. And this creepy part, Miss Burke is watching him from the bleachers.
I didn't even see that, but
She's
maybe because it like went by so fast.
She's standing there watching him. She waves and everything with her fucking scarf around her arms. And yeah, that's still an inappropriate relationship. Coach yells at Zeke, and Zeke hits a cigarette while being yelled at. And Coach says,
"Put that butt out, get in there."
That butt.
I've always found it funny because did you ever notice the kid that was standing there and he says, "Put that butt out," and he sticks his butt out. And so Stan and Stokley are now together, and Stokely's no longer wearing black.
Which I fucking hate. Okay.
I'll let you take it
All
away.
right. So this is my theory. Even if she was being a person that she was wearing black. Okay. She was acting as if she was a lesbian, but knew that she wasn't a lesbian. Okay. The parasite or aliens that enter her body, that would make her change like a 180, right? So that would make her look like, Delilah, right? But at the end of the movie, when she doesn't have the parasite, she's dressing like Delilah in purple. Why would they put her in purple? I don't understand. Why would they change her to a person that she's not? Like, being goth, like this, I guess this is like a total 90s thing, but like, I guess back in the day, like, being goth was not it. Nowadays, being goth, like, it is what it is.
People love a big titted goth girl.
Right. It is what it is. But like, I guess they changed her to wear purple at the end just because of that whole like goth lesbian,
and see,
whatever.
Me and you kind of discussed that a little bit, and my take on it is she has finally embraced who she is. She has embraced that no, she's not a lesbian, nor is she goth, and that she put that face on, that mask on for everyone, so people would just leave her the fuck alone. But she's come to terms with the fact that she does need people around in her life, and that she doesn't need to push people away.
You can still have people in your life.
It could have been executed better.
You could still have people in your life and know who you are by wearing black and painting your eyes shut.
And
okay?
Painting your fucking eyes shut.
In Stan's words. And he liked her when she was goth, so why would you have to change yourself for somebody else to like you even more?
I'm confusion.
I just feel like her being in purple, like, that's the worst ending. that made me hate the movie.
And so right after that, It's Not Over Now by Nev is playing, and Stan and Stokley kiss. It's really cute. And Casey, for some reason, looks less like a dork, which is something else I was going to point out. He looks way less like a dork now. And Delilah approaches him, showing him all of the magazine covers that he's on. And one of the magazines shows a little date. It says that it's October 6th of 1998. And Delilah asks how it feels to be a hero, and he says that it's all right, and they kiss. And I guess Delilah's finally over her vanity and doesn't mind dating the geeky Stephen King kid. And we get a fade out and the credits. Directed by Robert Rodriguez. Aww.
And he shouldn't have gotten with Delilah because she was a bitch, but okay.
You know what? That actually kind of reminded me of Scream 2, whenever Randy's like, when the geek gets the girl, and he like sprays his mouth with the mouth spray stuff.
Mouth freshener.
That's so 90s. I used to see that whenever I was little in movies, and like people never did that in real life.
No.
They just used like the Listerine strips that burned your mouth.
Yeah. Or went and brush your teeth.
Right, or use some gum. But yes, this has been The Faculty. This has been one of the most fun episodes, I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
Got to have my siesta on
Yes.
here.
I was really like nervous and anxious, but now like after I guess 2 hours of recording, almost 3 hours of recording, like
you
I feel
just have
better.
to get into your zone, you know? You have to take it as this is just a conversation. It's just being recorded. You know?
Yeah, I'm still not going to listen to it afterwards.
You totally
I hate
are.
hearing my voice.
Girl, me too. Me too. And just think, I have to edit all of this.
Gosh.
And I have gotten over my fear of my own voice because I've always hated my voice. But I've gotten over it. I don't think I sound awful. You're going to have to listen.
No,
You're going to have to
don't.
at least try.
Well, I really enjoyed myself, and I hope that Mal will have me back on for something else.
You're definitely going to be on. Y'all, I'm going to go ahead and say it. So whenever we do subscriptions, I done already told Monika, her and I are going to do Beer Fest.
Yes.
We're covering Beer Fest while probably drinking some beer, and it's going to be a great time.
I can't wait.
And we're going to talk about our drinking game that we have for that movie.
Yes.
Because it's a good time up there calling Gam Gam a whore and Grandpapa and all of that.
Grandpapa.
But thanks you guys again so much for listening. Just a quick reminder again about our subscriptions. Yes, those are going to be coming November or around the 1st of November. We'll just say that. I don't know exactly when. I don't have a date, but around that time.
Make sure you subscribe.
Yes, subscribe to us. Follow. We have all of our social media linked in the description below.
Comment.
Yes. We also always have a Q&A every single episode, just telling us how we're doing. If you have any type of feedback or something, if you think that we're doing something terribly, if you have something that you want to say, if you want to hate on us, whatever, you can send it. It's at the bottom of our Spotify, or you can comment on our YouTube. Is there anything else that you want to say? Do you want to plug anything? You got anything cool?
Like what?
I don't know. You got anything else you want to say?
I had fun. I don't really know.
Fun.
I don't really know what else to say. No, when you do Nightmare on Elm Street,
You
please
already
holler
know.
at me, because anybody that knows me knows my favorite killer is Freddy Krueger.
And honestly, I'm probably not going to do the whole franchise, but for sure, we're doing Dream Warriors, baby. The third one. Like, for sure, I might go ahead and just do the first one because it is a classic, but Dream Warriors, for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
that
hands
one's a good
down.
one.
But next week, guys, we're going Rob Zombie. We're doing some House of a Thousand Corpses.
Ooh.
I am so pumped. It's one of my favorite Rob Zombie movies. It is gory. It is crazy. It feels like a music video, but at the same time, it's a horror movie. And yeah.
That movie gets my anxiety going, so
I'm
y'all
here
better
for
watch it. Y'all better listen to this podcast next
I am
week.
so here for it. I'm ready to go to Red Hot Pussy Liquor and do some fucked up shit.
Okay, on that note,
I will see you guys next week, and Monica will be back whenever I have her back.
hopefully soon.
Bye.